Sorry, I got cut off there a little bit. So I was saying to do the cyan cube. I actually think I'm going to just do this one. I just want to shrink it up this direction a little bit. And then I'm going to hit extrude again, G. And then I'm going to grab this and pull it straight out. Roughly about that much, we'll say. And that looks pretty good. And the last thing we need to do is just make the cylinders, the wheels, right? So that's a cylinder, obviously. So I'm going to create a cylinder. And I will scale it down and pull it over here. Okay, so I'm actually going to take it and put it on this back one, because this back one's nice and straight. Like that's right on the, it's kind of not though, it's a little crooked. Anyway, the back one sort of looks like a straight. So I'm just going to kind of scale it, and then I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to just hold J to rotate it. That was kind of weird. It just disappeared. Okay. All right, so we'll delete that. I'm gonna make another one. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Sometimes you get weird things happening in Maya. That, I guess, is one of them. So I'm gonna take this, scale it this way, and instead of holding J, I'm just gonna rotate it. So I need to do it on, if you look, it's my blue one, so that'd be Z. So I'm just typing 90, and that'll rotate it that direction. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, I'll put this up here. All right, scale this down a little bit. I'm gonna take this and pull this up a little bit more. Take this up a little bit, because these need to be a little bit bigger than that. Okay, so we're gonna call that good. Now, what I need to do is I need to make one for all the different things, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take its pivot. I'm gonna hold D and V. I'm gonna middle mouse button and waggle right here, and it'll be pivoting right there. So now, if I were to duplicate this, I can duplicate and rotate. Command D, rotate, or Control D if you're on a PC. All right, Command D, rotate. It's not perfect, but it will get the job done. We'll adjust this afterwards. Great. And now I have the base of my chair. So again, it's really blocky, but it definitely visually gives me a good idea of what I'm working with. Okay. So it looks pretty okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say this is next one, Command Shift S. And I'll save this as number 2. Beautiful. Okay. Now, the next thing to do is to go through again with another iteration and block it down a little bit more. So what I would actually do is go through all the pieces of the room and do this. That way I get a better silhouette value and I know what I'm working with. But in this case, I'm just going to work on just this chair. So just for time's sake, I'm going to try this part. I'm going to move even faster because I'm just trying to get it done. One thing you can do is that if I hit 3, it'll show me a smooth version. Right, and if I hit 1, it's unsmooth. So it's a preview that if I were to subdivide this is what it would look like. Okay, now that's all fine and dandy, but if you see it's a little bit too round, I actually need it to be a little bit more square. So what I can do is this. I can I'm going to use this insert edge loop tool, and I'm going to insert edge loop here and one here. Now watch what happens when I hit 3. It's a little bit more square there. Okay, now watch if I undo those. See how it's rounder? Okay? And basically the idea is this. So if I grab both of these edge loops, and if I scale them inwards so they're closer to this, it leaves more space for it to be rounded. If I scale it farther out, it makes it tighter. Okay? So I have to scale this in a little bit because it actually is a little bit rounder. Okay? So something like that. I'm going to hit back to 1. Alright, so that's okay. And then I got to do the same thing. Well, let me look on the top actually. 3. Looks okay. Now the other thing that's happening is you see this is really rounded. And it is round there, but it's not quite that round, okay, on this axis. So I'm going to hit 1. And I'm just going to, again, use the Insert Edge Loop tool. Actually, I'm going to use the Multi-Cut tool. So it's this one up here. Because the front's pretty round, but the back's got a little bit of hardness to it. So I'm going to click and, okay. That's weird. It just wasn't previewing. So it was, oh, there it goes. Okay. So I'm going to put this a little bit tighter to this end. And what you're going to see is when I hit 3, see how it's tight here and round there? It's because it's close to this. So if I double click on this, and I'm just going to use that slide edge tool, mesh tools, slide edge, okay? It's going to show up here on the middle mouse button, click and drag it. You don't have to do this, I just want to show you what it does. So watch, if I hit 3, as I slide the edge in the other direction, it'll become tight on that side. And if I slide it this way, it gets tight on this side, okay? So you see, I'm sliding this edge from one side to the other, but depending on how I do it, it's tighter on the opposite. So I want it tight on this side. Okay? You can see that gives me a little bit closer of the approximation of what I want. And that's actually a little too tight, so I'm going to pull this back just a real small amount. Come on. Come on. There it goes. So I'm going to pull this a little bit up. Not quite there. There. We'll call that good. All right. I'm going to turn snapping off because it snaps when it gets to the end there, and I don't really want it to. Okay. So let's hit 3 again. And that looks okay. I feel like, let me see this. Okay. So a couple things that could be better is this. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag across these vertices. And I'm going to, I'm going to take W, and I'm just going to move it back a little. All right. Top does that too. So I'm just going to move this back a little bit so it's more rounded, because that's actually the seat is. I'm going to do it to the top too. I'm going to grab these top ones. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. Okay, so it's more rounded. And also, I'm going to click and drag across all these ones. Okay. And I'm going to take that and pull that down a little bit, because it's also a little bit rounded this way. Okay. And that helps a little bit. That's it, 3. And that looks a little bit better. The other thing I want to do is this. I'm going to use that multi-cut tool again. I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to say roughly in here. Okay, I'm going to put one there. And I'll put one roughly in here and here. Okay, so I'll show you where to do that. I'm going to go to Edges. I'm going to grab here. I'm going to hold Shift and double click here. It'll grab that whole edge loop in between. And I just want it to be a little more round here because it's actually a little bit pushed out in this direction. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to hold Shift, double click, and this should actually come back a little bit. So it goes like this. And kind of the same thing here. Click here, hold Shift, double click. I'm going to pull this up, okay? Maybe not quite so much. Hold there, boom, boom. Pull this down a little bit. Same thing here, okay? Just trying to shape it a little bit better. All right, now if I hit 3, that's a little closer to the approximation of what it should look like, okay? So now I actually want to do that. So all I'm going to do is I have it selected. I'm going to go up to here with not this one. This one's reduce. This one will subdivide the mesh. So click on that. That's poly smooth. And there you go. Now, depending on the level of detail I want, I could up my division. So like, let's say 2. All right. And we'll do 2. That's fine. Okay. And you can see that's not too bad. Looks pretty good. Now, the next thing I need to do is this arm, okay? And I'm just going to work on this one because I'll just duplicate it to make the other one. Now, again, this is actually kind of an organic, round, smooth shape. So in order to get that, if I hit 3, it'll give me a preview. But you can see it's really rounded here, and it's not. It's not supposed to be rounded. And it's also rounded down here. And also, if you look, it's rounding these edges. This is actually straight, okay? I do want the roundness of this like organic turning, like that's perfect, but the other stuff I do not. So to fix that, hit back to 1 mode. I'm just going to put really tight edges on things. So I'm using that multi-cut tool. And in order to make this really tight, I'm just going to go right to the edge, really, really, really tight. Boom, put one there. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Get really, really, really tight. Boom. That close enough. Now watch, when I hit 3, you'll see it's tight now, right? It's tight. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here in order to make this tight. So I'm going to go really, really tight to this edge. Boom. And really, really tight to this edge. Boom. And now if I hit 3, let me hit Q so I get off of that tool. And now when I hit 3, you can see it doesn't look too bad, right? Looks pretty okay. That's pretty much what I wanted. So I'm hit back to 1, and now I'm actually going to go ahead and execute it. And I could be a little more particular about this. I'm being kind of loose about some of this stuff because I might like change this shape and make it a little more accurate. But it's good enough for me. So again, I'm just going to do poly smooth. Boom. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change divisions to 2 because I'm just trying to make this look nice. Usually try to keep things as low poly as possible. And that looks pretty okay. I'm actually going to turn this off so you get a little better idea, right? That's kind of okay. That doesn't look too bad. All right. And I can actually, we'll just delete this one. I'm going to take this one, and in order to flip it so it's perfectly on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. I'm going to hit W, see the pivot. If I go right to where the center line is, which is right here on this, I'm going to hold D and V, and on the middle mouse button wiggle. See if I'm holding a middle mouse button, and I'm going to drag it right to one of these center verts, okay, or the center edge here. Now, when I do Command D, and I type in the minus in front of this, it'll be perfect. It's going to scale based on that. Because what we're doing is this. I didn't really explain this before. If I hit scale, I'm doing this, is what I just did. Okay? All right. Good. So that looks pretty okay. Now, this I'm actually going to leave. Oh, you know what we'll do this. This is actually a much more complicated piece, but I don't feel like spending much time on it. I'm going to grab all of these edges. Actually, we're going to do this. I'm going to take this as a whole and pull it down a little bit so I can see the whole thing. And we're just going to bevel it. Because see how it's like perfectly sharp? If I turn this off, you can see it. You don't want it like that, okay? That's unnatural. Things aren't usually that sharp. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click on this, which is bevel. And it's going to bevel, because I didn't grab any specific edge. I can grab specific edges, like this edge and that edge, and just bevel those. And, you know, round it out, and it'll only do those ones, okay? But that's actually not what I want to do. Instead, what I'm going to do is just do the entire object itself. So I'll hit bevel. That's not what to do. I'm going to hit bevel. And then change this fraction. That's a little too loose. We're going to do 0.1, so it's a little bit tighter. And then segments, I will try 2. Because I kind of want it to be square. And you can see it's just enough to kind of soften what it would look like. And I'm just going to take this and shove it onto here. I don't really care. It's even enter penetrating. But honestly, you're never going to see it. So I'm just putting it in there as like kind of a fail safe. Okay. Now, we have this thing here, okay? And this is actually made up of a bunch of parts. There's actually a bunch of things on it, but I'm not going to worry myself too much with it. In order to see it better, I'm going to hit Shift-I. And what that does is it's like hide everything but this. If I have nothing selected and hit Shift-I, it brings everything back. But I want to look at this. Select it, hit Shift-I. Want everything back, click off, Shift-I. So I'm just going to click on this, Shift-I. And I want, if I hit 3, you'll see it's rounded. It looks like a pill. So I just need to put an edge loop on the top here. So I'm use that multi-cut tool. Go really, really tight. Boom. And do the same thing down here. Come on. Boom. Okay. Q. I'll take this. I'm just going to poly smooth. Oops, sorry, I did reduce on accident. Poly smooth. And that's actually fine. I think of division of 1 is totally doing. So I'll have nothing selected, hit Shift-I, brings everything back. Now, this piece here, I'm just gonna check my time real quick, see where we're at. Okay, so we're at, okay, so I gotta move a little bit faster. All right, so this, if I hit 3, you're gonna see it looks like this, which isn't quite what I want. Again, I need that hard edge, I need a bunch of things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that multi-cut tool again. I'm just gonna go real tight right here. Boom. Up at 3, you can see it looks like that, and that's pretty close. It's a little too rounded here. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to have to eyeball it, but I'm going to put like 1 here, we'll say. 1 here. 1 here. 1 here. And 1 here. And now when I hit 3, you'll see it's a little more, it's not as round. That's more like what I was looking for. Okay. The other thing I'd like to do too is this. I'm going to go at Q. I'm going to go to faces. Oops. I'm going to grab this face, this face, this face, this face, and this face. I'm just going to hit W because it gets a little bit thinner towards the end, like that. Okay. Just think that looks a little bit nicer. Okay. That looks fine for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit poly smooth. And I'm going to change this divisions to 2 just to make it a little bit smoother. And voila. Now we got that. All right. So lastly, it's just these wheels. Which again, I'm going to work on 1 and then not worry about the other. So I'm actually going to delete these. These are just there as placeholders. So I'm going to select this and do what I need to. So I'm going to go and I'm actually going to use this so I can make it perfectly on both sides. Boom, boom. So I got 3. That's kind of weird. That should have been, oh, why did that setting not? That should have stayed. Okay, that's weird that that went away. Okay. I don't know what happened there. So I'm going to control delete. And actually, I got to control delete that too. Okay. So I'm going to go back to that tool. Let's just hit Y to bring that tool back up. And I'm going to make sure that this is, actually, I can leave it at 2. I'll leave it at 2. And then it'll make 2 perfectly. And the reason why I did that is that now I can scale these and they'll be at the same distance on both sides. Like so. Beautiful. And that looks okay. I'm just going to go ahead just to make this look a little bit more dynamic. I'm going to, if I hold tab, this will turn to paint selection. So I'm going to paint select that side. I'm going to hold tab and paint select this side. So I have both sides selected. And then I'm going to hit extrude. Or extrude. I'm going to hit this little thing here, and then I'll click on this. So it's